Alright, so after you've been using your filter for approximately 12 months, and again, it doesn't matter if you've hardly used it, if you only lived in the house 2 months, every 12 months these filters have to be changed, regardless of how much they've been used, because a filter can only stay underwater for so long, and that's really the bottom line. Filters are designed to hold on and stay, secure, and they're designed to not have more than 12 months underwater, so they must be changed every 12 months. The way to change your filter is you start by shutting off your cold water supply underneath, shut this valve off, come up to your faucet and open up the faucet. We have our diverter on here from the last video, but most of you won't have this at the point, so I'll just pull this off real quick to avoid any confusion. Alright, so open the faucet to let any pressure that's in the lines out, and just leave it open. Now you have these two connectors up here, and you can do this filter exchange under the sink. You do not have to pull the filters out. I'm going to show you the way that I do it, and it's easier and it's neater. So I just remove the two hoses. I remove the main connection hose from the top, and I remove the hose from the supply. And if you remember earlier in this video, we showed you how to use quick connect fittings and how to remove these hoses. So you might have to refer back to that to see how to pull these out of there. It's very easy. Make sure that you have some towels or a cookie sheet or something in the cabinet when you're doing this, because there will always be a little bit of water that's going to come out. And then I'll take this out. And then again, some of you might want to put a baking sheet or a cookie sheet on your kitchen floor and do this on the floor. Most of you are going to do it up on the countertop. And basically, you have your wrench, and this wrench has two different directions it can go on. As you see, there's grooves inside the wrench, and those grooves are angled. So if you're putting the wrench on wrong, you'll notice that it will not slide all the way to the bottom of the canister. If you flip it around the other way, you see this, how it sits much lower on the canister? This is the proper way to use the wrench. Now, I can tell you, if any of you try to loosen the filters this way, you're going to have a hard time, and you're probably not going to get them off, especially if it's brand new. So the method that we want you to use is to turn the filters over sideways like this, have the wrench on so you have some leverage. So in other words, you don't want to have the wrench on like this. You want to have it on back like this so you have some leverage. Hold this side of the filter housing down and pull back with your hand. Do not take it completely off at this point. Just break it to the point where it's loose, and that's it. Go to your middle canister and do the same thing. Break it to where it's loose, and then go to your end canister and do the same thing. So now all three are loose, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt them upside down, and now by hand I'm going to go ahead and take these canisters off. They'll be full of water. Just dump them in the sink and set them on the side. Do that for all three. And now you can set it back upright on your countertop. You'll also know that I did not remove these hoses. If you don't need to, don't remove them. If you have quick connects under there, because these are compression fittings, so it's easier to pop them out of the quick connect. By the way, if anybody's watching this video and says, oh, this is a pain in the neck, keep in mind, you're only doing this once a year. Do you remember how it was when you were getting the bottled water? The cases, lugging them in and out of the trunk, having to deal with all the plastic bottles, the gas and the time that you spent dealing with all those plastic bottles. This is a 15-minute job once a year. So if you find yourself getting frustrated or saying, oh, this is a pain in the neck, just remind yourself, man, this has provided me and my family great tasting, safe drinking water for an entire year. It's a tiny bit of maintenance to do for this. And by the way, you don't have to do it yourself. If you're local to our area here in California, we can supply labor to come out and do this for you. Or if you're in another state, you can call a handyman. Don't call a plumber. It's ridiculous to pay plumber wages to come out and change filters. It would be a handyman that could come out and do this for you very cheap. You're going to be left with cartridges now, and there's no tools required. You simply turn them counterclockwise, unscrew them, and remove them, all three. If they're in there tight, you grab them a little bit lower instead of from the top. Grab them a little bit lower and turn them. When you get your new filters, they're going to be sealed in plastic. Please don't forget this part. Wash your hands, either with Chanson acid water or some antibacterial hand soap or hand sanitizer. You do not want to touch new filters with dirty or unclean hands because you can transfer bacteria to them. So please make sure that you're either wearing some rubber gloves or you sanitize your hands. Each filter is marked both on the front of the housing, and when you get your new filter, it'll have a packaging with a sticker on it that'll match what it says on the front of the canister. So all you have to do is match the filter name up with the one that's on the front of the canister, and you simply reinstall them. You'll notice one side has open threads and the other side does not, so it's very obvious the way that they go. You just dropped it on gently, and look how easily this turns. See? I'm just turning it. If you find yourself having to use pressure or effort to turn it, it's not threaded properly. Stop, remove it, and start again until it goes on very easily. Once you feel it get snug, turn it about another quarter turn, and that's it. Do not over tighten these. They will leak for sure. This happens to go at the end, so I'm just going to go ahead and put this one on the end. And this one is, oh, I'm sorry. I did it wrong. Well, it shows nobody's perfect. Are you going to ruin or destroy your filter system if you install these in the wrong order? Absolutely not. We install these in this order for the best performance. It's not that they won't work if you put them in the wrong way. They will certainly work. But we want them in this order to get the best performance out of the system. So now they're all snug, and now I can take my canisters. Since you've used this for a year, I highly recommend that you either take some Chanson acid water or some white vinegar, pour in maybe an inch, half inch in the canister, put your hand over it and shake it up a little bit. That way if there's any scale buildup or any kind of residue in here, it'll rinse it out. Put the cap back on, and again, should turn on very easily the way you're seeing it, and make sure that the name on the sticker matches what you have down here. Okay, now some of you are going to see this video and you're going to zoom in and you're going to call us up and you're going to say, hey Ronnie, some of those filters didn't match the stickers. Well, we basically took this from our warehouse and this was sitting on the shelf, and so yes, you're right, on this video some stickers don't match, but I promise you your model will. So when it says KDF here, it's going to say KDF here. When it says catalytic carbon here, it's going to, actually everything matches here except the last one. This sticker here should say catalytic carbon. But we didn't screw up the video and we didn't make a mistake on purpose. We just grabbed something that we had to make this video. So, and that's it. Once you've got them on nice and snug, put your wrench on. And again, now it's not necessary to turn it over sideways. Now you can keep it upright. Put the wrench back on. Make sure it's in the right direction. And just snug them up. Do you know how you know when it's perfectly tight? When the label is facing completely forward. So you can see this one, the label is a little bit off to an angle. And we'll snug it up. And the same with this one. Snug it up. Just again, like with anything that you hook up with plumbing, now that we put this back under, and watch how fast this is. Time me. Ready? Go. Water on, installation done. Now who could complain about that? How easy was that? Less than 10 minutes should take you to do this whole thing. Make sure when you've put your new filters in that you follow the flush procedure that came with your original kit. Run the water, open the cold water, 5 minutes, let it run, turn it off, let it sit for 10, open it up and let it run for another 10 minutes. Now your filters are flushed and ready to start using, and you're good for another full year. I always like to take a Blackmagic marker, and on the back of the filter housing I just write in the date that I've done this install. So it's just an additional measure of protection in case I forget. Usually we're going to call you and tell you when it's time, but if we missed calling you and you're not sure when it's time to replace those, and you don't have an ionizer with the filter counter on it, you could look on the back and see when it's hit that 12th month, it's time to replace the filters. And that's it for the filter install. If you need any additional information, you have any issues, please go to chanceandwater.com and you'll find most of your answers there. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you enjoy your new filter system.